Today's about a conversation with a friend and a favor to ask from you. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized and make it look easy. Today's episode is a little different from the norm. You'll hear a conversation between me and my dear friend, Dr. Brbara Blackburn. If you're a regular here, you know about my work. But today's an introduction to Dr. Blackburn, who is a true guru in the field of education with around 36 books to her credit. Her specialty is rigor in the classroom. Now, there's another wrinkle here. Both of us are nominees again this year for Global Guru's Top 30. For Barbara, it's in the education category. For me, it's time management. In the show notes, you'll have the link to go and cast your vote, and please do that today before the voting ends. Public voting counts for 30% of the decision. And now, on with the interview.
Hey, all right. Well, hello. For those of us who have the pleasure of meeting us, and we have the pleasure of meeting you for the first time, I am Dr. Brbara Blackburn, and I am joined here by Dr. Frank Buck, who is just a dear colleague and a dear friend. Frank, I was trying to figure out how many years we've known each other, and I think it's got to be like 18 or 19.
Something like that. I was wondering the same thing earlier. I think it's when you were writing your very first book, Classroom Motivation, A to Z. And I think it was like on the David Allen bulletin board. You were looking for ideas for specific letters of the alphabet, specific topics. I saw it. I was an elementary school principal at the time and thought, well, there's some neat things that we have going on that match what she's looking for. I responded. You wound up using every bit of it. One thing led to another, and we've, our paths have crossed in so many wonderful ways across the years. So,
it has, because I came to your district, and then you and I have worked together in so many ways. One of the things I remember was with your first book. And at that point, you were naming it Time Management. It was your first book, and you were trying to figure out what to do for the cover. And we were sitting, I can't remember if we were in your car or getting ready to go in your house to meet your wife. And I started talking about a juggler, and you were like, that's it. And that became the first, you've got it.
And so the first book, and then when we did the second edition, we kept the juggler, because there was a particular line in the book that talked about in the chapter on handling multiple projects, that a juggler is able to keep all the balls in the air because he knows how many he has. He knows the position of each one, and he gives each one the right amount of attention at the right time. And we need to be able to do the same thing with our projects. And so my wife, as she was proofreading, said, "Oh, I like that line," and others who had done some of that initial reading, and so it was like, that's what we need to put. And we looked at so many jugglers, and then finally, Bob Sickles, the president of Ion Education, he says, "Frank, I got one more I want you to look at," because we just weren't happy with any of them. And the little futuristic man with juggling clocks.
Yes.
Juggling clocks. It was like, that's it. That's the winner. That's the winner. Yeah.
Well, this is always such a good time of year. You and I always have a conversation about this time of year because we think back on what's happened during the last year. But it's also just one of those times that you don't just think back on what you've done, but also the inspiring people that you've worked with. And
that, absolutely. Yeah. And that's so much of it. It's the people that have made a difference, that are helping me along the way. People I'm having an opportunity to help. And, what goes around comes around. I find, I help somebody else out, and then later they're in a position to just turn around and do the same thing. So it's,
Yeah, I agree. Well, this is also the time of year when we think about global gurus. And for the last 5 years, you've been in the top 5 of global gurus for time and organization management. And in fact, 4 of those years, you've been number 1. That is just such a great achievement.
Thanks. It floors me that the first time I was named to Global Gurus, it's like, yeah, how does this happen? Because there's so many good people out there. And when you're looking at this is truly global, this is the whole world. So for somebody to recognize the work that I've done, and I'm sure there's so many good people in the education arena, and for you to be named one of those just top of the top, it's mind blowing. There's so many people that have had the accomplishments I've had, and much better accomplishments, I feel. But I'm just honored to be amongst those, and of course hope that people who are listening here will go and vote for both of us as we're nominees again for 2024.
Yes, you are exactly right. And we will have that link, but Global Gurus is where you vote, and you just choose the category. So Frank is in time management, I'm in education, and then you can just vote for us. And we absolutely would appreciate the vote. And, I really, when I think about my time with Global Gurus, because it's been a little bit longer than yours has, I am honored just like you are. And I'm very humbled. And you said that. It just amazes me that my work is as respected as it is. I mean, I think it's quality work, but to have it respected by an outside group is so important. And just to know that my reach is so important. I had somebody ask me one time, what's the most important thing about your job? What keeps you going every day? And I said, it's knowing that on any given day, somebody is reading one of my books and using something in it to make a difference with students. And Global Guru for me has extended that reach. And that has just been very, very humbling to me.
I would agree. There have been quite a few people over these last several years that have invited me to be a podcast guest, or they in one reason or in one way or another have reached out to me, and I said, "What put me on your radar? How do you know about me?" And it was they saw Global Gurus, and that was sort of well, let me check this guy out. And then they go to the website, they like what they see, and and one thing leads to another. There's so many people that do quality work, but it's such a noisy world out there. How do you get noticed when there's so much going on? And if even a fraction of 1% of the people know about us, that's a huge number.
And so it really is a big deal. Well, as we think back, as you think about 2023, and you think about the issues that you have faced, the kinds of as you've talked to people and worked with people doing workshops, and as people respond to you about your book, what are the major issues that you've heard for this year related to time management and organization management?
It's so much more being put on people. My teaching career started in 1982. Everything was pencil and paper. And the tools we have are so much better now, and it ought to be making life easier for us. But it seems like along the way, there are also so many more requirements. Teachers who talk about, I'm getting 100+ emails a day. And I'm getting emails from parents and they want a response back the same day. Whereas, we remember the day when a parent just waited to a parent-teacher conference, and we handled it that way. So now it's a daily thing. Our time is limited. Our time is very finite. But the choices, the opportunities, the potential things we could be doing are almost infinite. Things we would like to be doing. and the expectations that other people have of us. And we've got email going on, and we've got instant messaging going on, and it's so much out there. And we've got to have a system that keeps what we need to be doing front and center and helps us put blinders on to a certain extent, to block some of the distraction so that we can focus on what's important and what's going to move us forward.
Yeah. Part of 2023, I'm going to lump a couple of questions together, and then we'll come back to some things for me. But is how you are working with people different than how it used to be? Or do you work with people in the same way? Because you talk a lot about technology and time and organization, and certainly COVID changed some things, but people have changed in terms of how they want to work. So how has working with people changed what you do?
Well, the principles have stayed the same, and I mean principles with a PLE, while the tools have changed. If this was 25 years ago, I'd be talking to you about how to put everything you need to do in one place, a paper planner. So no sticky notes everywhere, no trying to, I can just remember that and keep up with it in my head. It needs to be in one place, and that place is with you all the time. The planner's not going to do you any good if it's laying on your desk and you're out in the hall when a to-do comes along. 25 years later, I'm still saying you need to put it all in one place, but now it's that phone that's synced to your computer, and you have that phone with you all the time. And for me, the switch happened in 2001 when I was getting lots of emails, and the emails didn't interface with the paper planner very well. When you get 3 emails a day, you can print them off and handle them with your other paperwork. When you're getting 103 a day, it's out of the question. So for me in 2001, it was the question of, how do we keep digital things digital and handle them in a digital way? And so now that's been so much of my teaching. But at the same time, telling folks that, look, we're still dealing with the paper. We can't digitize it all. I'm not paperless. I don't know anybody that is. So if something comes to me paper, here's the system to handle it paper, my tickler file. If it comes to me digitally, it goes in my digital task list with a date for when I want to see it again. And I say it's the same thing. It's like a digital tickler file. So same system, we just need to have something for the paper side and something for the digital side. And that's still kind of a new beast. A generation ago, we didn't have any of this. So we're sort of learning as we're going along. And so I've tried to be on the frontier of that and be the one with simple solutions that help people navigate this life a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's why I've been real careful to say time and organization, because I think you are more than just time. And certainly, and you know this very well, you and your book have helped me digitize a lot of areas. But I still write first drafts of my books on paper, on a legal pad. And I got to tell you, that's probably not going to change. I mean, I'm working on book 35 right now, and I write them on paper. And so there's just always that part of me. But now you have helped me digitize so many other things that it really helps. So I think that's just really interesting. And I do want people to walk away with the point that you're not just about time management, you're really about time and organization, because that's the bigger piece.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And what about 2023 for you, Barb? What has stood out as you've worked with teachers and administrators?
When you think about people, I think I have seen maybe a little more of a shift. I don't, and it could be partly that I just don't very much. I don't just fly in somewhere, do a workshop, and walk out the door. I really work more often with places that want some follow-up for sustainability, working with coaching their leaders so that I can hand it off to them and they can really keep it going without having to keep me right there, coaching those teachers. And so I've got 3 school districts right now. I've been working with all 3 of those for 2 years, and we've come from 0 to 80. I mean, we're doing very different things now, but and I have done some workshop kinds of things virtually because, you know, we can do them for 45 minutes. It works into their time a little bit better, and they get the expertise without having to fly me in for a full day. So we still do some of that, but we do a lot more of working with teachers, either by grade spans or by subject areas at middle and secondary. So I may do sessions for math teachers or math and science teachers based on that book that I have. So we're doing more of that, and I'm doing more of the work with teachers. You know, rigor's what I'm known for. I do a lot of different things, but rigor's the big one. And everybody just wants that magic formula. And first of all, there's not one. But what you can do is really hone in using a set of characteristics on what a rigorous task for students looks like. And how do you craft rigorous tasks? How do you take what you're already doing and adjust them to make them more rigorous without just throwing them out the window? And so I do a lot more of that, particularly with school districts where I'll teach them what to do. They'll come together as grade levels and departments to do them. And then I actually review them, meet with the principals and the coaches, and teach them what I saw, talk to them about what they saw, teach them what I saw, and they go back and share that feedback. So the teachers are getting good feedback, but the leaders are learning how to do that feedback themselves. So I've seen more of that just in terms of how my time is different, which I really enjoy because I learned so much from teachers and leaders. So in terms of how I work with schools, that has been a little bit different. Again, I still do here's 3 hours on what is rigor and what does it look like in the classroom, but we do more of the coaching and follow-up with whether it's a train the trainer model or working just with leaders. Now, in terms of what I hear with issues, still hear rigor is a huge issue. The difference is I hear rigor as how do I do rigor and deal with the learning gaps that came from COVID? So our students are much further behind than they used to be. And what am I going to do about that? So, you know, I told you I'm working on my 35th book right now because I love to write. And the 35th one is just on scaffolding because I'm having teachers just beg me, please, I know you've got it in all your books, but give me more. So that's been a real big issue with the rigors, how to tie those together. I hear a lot about teacher morale. So my newest book that just came out is right here behind my shoulder. It's improving teacher morale and motivation for leaders, because I typically write a teacher book and then a leader book. And that one came out for leaders. And that has been very popular because people say, I don't know what to do. They're telling me they're burned out. I get that, but what am I supposed to do about it? Well, there are things you can do culturally. You know, there are things you can do in terms of respect and building a collaborative team. There are very specific actions you can take. So I'm getting a lot of conversations related to that. And then I think motivation overall, how do we motivate our students? You know, they were home for a couple of years. They don't want to be back. What am I supposed to do about that? So the motivation has been a big issue. So I also addressed that in the Rigor in the Classroom, which is the teacher book that came out last year. So because I think I've got rigor and then teacher morale and motivation as the 3 biggest issues, and shifting away from just the stand up, entertain people to let's really coach and get down to the nitty gritty of work kind of shift.
Yeah, and I think this latest book, I cannot wait to read that one. You know, as you say, rigor, I think you have established yourself as probably the go-to person on the subject of rigor. You think rigor, you think Brbara Blackburn. And I'm seeing the same thing with, you know, we talked about teachers being overwhelmed, but the burnout, the teacher shortages, it's reached epidemic proportions, and leaders are looking for, you know, what do I do about it? You know, do we let them wear jeans on Friday and have a pizza party? Is that going to fix it? Well, no, that's not going to fix it. You know, teachers are looking for real things that they can do in the classroom where they're going to be able to relate to students, where students are going to have success. You know, it's all of the things where when we chose to go into education and we looked into the future at what our future would look like as an educator, we still want those things.
Right.
We still want those things. We don't want to be looking forward to Friday.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I've always told principals when I'm working with principals that their number one job is to remove barriers for success from their teachers.
Yes.
That is their number one job, whatever those barriers are. And I had one come up several weeks ago when the crisis hit worldwide with everything going on in the Middle East. And I had a principal say, my teachers are scared to talk about this because they aren't sure what'll happen if it goes in a different direction. What do we do? Well, I immediately called John Norton, who, as you know, is the editor of Middle Web online.
Middle Web, yes.
He's a dear friend of mine. And I said, John, it'll take me 30 minutes to write it. How about letting me write this article? And he ran it 2 days later. And I was able to get that out to the principals I was talking to. And one of the things they came back to me and said was, you helped us remove a barrier to success. You know, you helped us figure something out. And I really think that's what it is. And I think that's what you do when you really talk about the management of time and organization, because teachers will always say they don't have enough time. They can't get everything done. What are they supposed to do? So as you think about 2023 and beyond, how do you think your work speaks to that moving forward?
You know, I think you really hit the nail on the head with the removing the barriers. You know, I think back to the things when I was looking at going into school administration and what kind of principal was I going to be? What was going to set me apart? And I had to look back at principals that I had and what made the really great ones. And there were two who were top notch. It wasn't that they were in the classroom all the time and telling me how to be a better teacher. I pretty well had that part down. And I had go-to people that if I wanted to know more about my subject area, there were people in my subject area I went to. The great principals were the ones who were beating back the wolves, whether it was the leaky roof or whether it was an out of control parent or not getting on the intercom all during the day, you know, protecting instructional time. They were giving me the time to teach. And I think going forward, as school leaders, we've got to do the same thing for our teachers. And sometimes it's tough in that we came from a model where things were delegated out because the office couldn't handle it all. You know, everybody had their homeroom. And so everybody kept the attendance for their homeroom and kept the attendance register and did the report cards. And it was all farmed out to teachers. Now we've got technology where the office can do an incredible amount, but stuff is still being farmed out to teachers. So I was the one as a principal who was going, look, why do we have every teacher in the building writing receipts? Let's take those receipt books up. Let's have ourselves a little procedure where every kid who has money goes to this one location with an envelope that has their name on it, how much money is in it, what it's for, turns it in one place where two people are counting it, putting it into a software package that's also printing the receipts for all the kids and producing a report that goes to the school bookkeeper with what was collected that day, with what accounts, everything goes in with the money. And then in the spring, when yearbooks have come in and it's time to distribute them to the students who bought a yearbook, instead of going back to overwhelmed teachers and saying, teachers, please go through your receipt books and make a list of all of the students who, and then turn all those lists in, and then the office having to figure out, well, which teachers have turned theirs in and which haven't. We just go to that one database, search for yearbook, and there's every kid, sort it by homeroom, print the list, and we're done.
Done.
We've got to get really good at recognizing clerical duties and not giving clerical duties to teachers. Let's give clerical duties to clerical people and to the technology that's going to take pretty time-consuming things and do them very quickly.
Well, what's funny is when I think about what I do with teachers and with principals in some different areas, but particularly with teachers, I actually do some of what you're talking about, just not with clerical tasks. For example, when I work with rigor, everybody wants to know, tell me what rigor looks like. Okay, it's always the big question. Right. So, and let's say math. Let's take math because that's just one that's always fun. And people will say, okay, we did computational problems, and then we had the students do word problems, and that's rigor. Well, no, because if the word problem is Sally has 2 pieces of pizza and Desiree has 2 pieces of pizza, you're still doing computation. And I'll have a teacher say, but I have them write out their word problems. Okay, so they write the problem that Pete has 1 dog and Barbara has 1 cat. How many animals do they have? Still working with basic computation. None of that is rigorous. So immediately I will have teachers say, oh my gosh, you're getting ready to tell me I have to throw all of what I've got away and I've got to start over. And I'll say, no. We're going to not make this harder than it has to be, because we do a lot of that. We make it harder than it has to be. So what I recommend, for example, with math, whatever grade level, is keep whatever you've got. Maybe you've got 10 computational problems and 2 word problems. Now do 1 problem that has 3 problems that are already solved. And the students have to figure out which one is incorrect, explain why it's incorrect, solve it correctly, and explain why they know it's right now. That's rigor. And I'm not saying dump all your other problems. I'm saying just add 1 at the end so that they're getting a little bit of work with it. And it is such a relief. Teachers will say, you're really telling me not to throw everything away. I'm really telling you not to throw everything away. I really am. And that's, I think, part of the reason your work resonates with me, other than the fact that you keep me organized, is that you and I believe we do the same thing. We just do it a little bit differently. And so I have always appreciated the inspiration you've given me. Well, we could just talk forever, and you know that. we could just spouses up here with us and just keep on talking, but we really cannot do that, and we don't want to take too much time with other folks. It has been our pleasure to share some of your time with us, whether you're a leader or a teacher or superintendent or whatever you are. It has been our pleasure. Don't forget that Frank's book is Get Organized. You want to hold it up, Frank, so they can see what it looks like?
Get Organized, Time Management for School Leaders. This is the 2nd edition. So when you go to Routledge or Amazon, either one, so you're looking for the blue cover. The first one was a white cover that talked a lot about your BlackBerry, syncing your BlackBerry to Outlook. Probably we're not a lot of, But this one I wrote so that 50 years from now, the principles are in here are going to be still applicable. And then the most recent one, written on the heels of the pandemic, Get Organized digitally. When people say, well, what's the difference? This is more the principles that are eternal. This one is more, these are the tools I'm using, right? In addition to this is all digital, where this is also talks about the paper. These are the tools that I use now, knowing that a year from now, 2 years from now, we may need to do another edition as tools change, but it's the nuts and bolts of here's what I use right now. Here's exactly how to use it.
Yes. And Frank, I will say Frank's books are the only ones that I have physical copies of. Because I review them for him, and I always make him send me a print copy. I told you I'm still a print person when it comes to some things, and I have read them cover to cover, and I use the information. My books, you can find them all on my website. We'll give you that in just a second. The 2 most recent ones, improving teacher morale and motivation for leaders, for teachers, rigor in the classroom. But I've got 34, so there's pretty much anything you could want on rigor. You can, and I think we're going to put links up. You can go to Routledge and get any of either of our books for 25% off. They're doing that for you as a nice thank you for us. We really appreciate that. Frank, tell them how to get a hold of you. I know they'll be able to find lots of tools and templates. Where
Absolutely.
can they get in touch with you? Yeah,
just come to my website, frankbuck.org. So I'm not .com, but frankbuck.org. What I would encourage you to do, first thing, get on my email list because I'm going to send you 2 free gifts. One of them is the first chapter of this book, going to help you get your desk clean. Several days later, you get a downloadable ebook, absolutely free, on how to set up and use my digital task list of choice called Remember the Milk, where everything can be in that one digital place.
Which I love. Frank, I should tell you, you convinced me. I love Remember the Milk.
You use Remember the Milk.
I do.
Yeah, I had a guy come up to me after a workshop. He says, you know, that milk the cow thing sounds like a real good idea. But no, Remember the Milk.
All right. So it's frankbuck.net.
What? .org.
.org.
.org. Yes.
Okay. So let me start over. Okay. So it's frankbuck.org. And they can get everything they need there. Okay. My information, if you want to get a hold of me, is BrbaraBlackburnOnline.com. Or you can Google Brbara Blackburn and rigor, and it will take you there. I can't even begin to tell you what all is on there because there's more than 100 free resources. So just go and play. There's plenty on there that you can get. Links on both of our websites are for our books. Again, you can get a discount on them. And we really, in addition to thanking you for your time, we really want to say that we have appreciated you recognizing us as global gurus. Yes. And we really would appreciate it if you'll go back on Global Gurus right now
vote.
and go vote for us. So go to time management. And Frank, you're like the 4th or 5th person listed, right?
Yeah. So it's globalgurus.org.
Yep.
And then you'll see various menus, but like there's a vote here, and there are a whole bunch of different categories. So education's one of them, time management's one of them. You'll enjoy seeing all of the others. So you can vote for one person in each of those. The popular vote counts for 30% of the total. So there are a lot of factors that go into it, but popular vote counts 30%, which is huge. So we do want you to vote for both of us. Ask your friends to do the same, because it just, it lets us know that, our work matters.
Yeah.
And just motivates us that much more to make 2024 and so forth to keep going like we have been for these years leading up to it.
It absolutely does. So again, on globalgurus.org, you go to time management to vote for Frank. You go to education to vote for me. You can look at any of the other categories that you're interested in too. And again, we just appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for listening to us have our little fireside chat without a fireplace. So thank you, Frank.
That's right.
And everybody have a good day.
Barb, thank you. Thanks, everybody. And that's our conversation. Thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you're new here, please come over to frankbuck.org and join the email list. You'll enjoy the 2 free gifts that come your way as a thank you. This has been Frank Buck helping you get organized and make it look easy.